The Kansas City Chiefs have successfully weathered both free agency and the NFL draft on their bid to make history, being the first team to three-peat in the Super Bowl era. But there is an article, from Bleacher Report that suggests three more players the Kansas City Chiefs should consider signing before the season starts. The article reads as such: realistic targets: defensive lineman Calais Campbell, wide receiver Michael Thomas, and running back Dalvin Cook. In my analysis, I will be going through these players in exactly reverse order. But the article reads as such: the Chiefs will attempt to do what no other team has done in the history of the league by winning 3 Super Bowls in a row. Today's salary cap rules and free agency have made that feat even more difficult. But the Chiefs have some things working for them. First, they've done a tremendous job drafting and developing. That's especially true on the defensive side of the ball, where they may be able to cope with the loss of L'Jarius Sneed with a homegrown secondary that features Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie, and Nick Jones. The inclusion here of Nick Jones is a bit curious, as Nick Jones has not done very much on the NFL stage yet. But the article continues: the more concerning area of the defense is on the interior. Chris Jones has covered for weaknesses there in the past. Re-signing him was a huge relief effort for this unit. However, coaxing Calais Campbell to chase a ring with the Chiefs would be a huge addition to shore up and help the run defense while adding a little pass rushing help. So that is true. But, and I sourced this from Arrowhead Pride, so if that is an incomplete quote, blame me and then them. But the article, the headline, at least, of the article mentions both Michael Thomas and Dalvin Cook as well. So we will spend a little bit of time going over these options as well, because I think it's interesting to suggest that the Kansas City Chiefs would sign any of these players, any of these three. There is one player that makes zero sense to me. There's one player that approaches making sense, though I was very low on him earlier in this offseason. But in fairness, I was very low on Xavier Worthy as a first rounder, and I was extremely low on Xavier Worthy being traded up for, and this goes to show you how much I know. And finally, there is a player that I have rallied for pretty hard for the Kansas City Chiefs to sign here. Starting here, Dalvin Cook is the player on this list that I think makes absolutely zero sense. Zero sense to me. I'm not sure what he adds to the Kansas City Chiefs, besides potentially a very heavy salary. Dalvin Cook is 28 years old, which is absolutely ancient for a running back in the NFL, and his last contract was a 5-year, $63 million contract. Now, I do not believe that he will be signing a 5-year, $63 million contract this time around, but it's at least worth looking at who Dalvin Cook was as he came out of college. I apologize for the setup here. I am hoping to formulate something on my own that will be a little bit easier on the eyes than this, but for the time being, this is what I have, just a copy and paste from Wikipedia. Ran a 4.49 40-yard dash with a 1.59 10-yard split, a 30.5-inch vertical leap, a 9-foot 8-inch broad jump, and did 22 reps on the bench press. Dalvin Cook, certainly when he was coming out of Florida State, was a running back that was going to be one of the higher-rated running backs in the league, or at least it seemed. Dalvin Cook has been a bit of a fit and a start in the NFL. I'm not sure what he adds to the Kansas City Chiefs that the Kansas City, well, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs do not have Isaiah Pacheco behind Isaiah Pacheco. Do you need Isaiah Pacheco behind Isaiah Pacheco? The Kansas City Chiefs don't have to run the ball all that much. The Kansas City Chiefs don't have to run the ball all that convincingly. So it does not make sense to me. Look, while I don't think he's going to try to talk himself into a 5-year, $63 million deal, I do think that there's probably quite a few dollars behind his name whenever it is that he does join a team, more than the Kansas City Chiefs will want to pay for a backup running back, a position that they do not seem to covet in the first place. Going back to the entire Brett Veach tenure, outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who, again, I'm going to defend the pick. If you thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to be in the NFL, what it was that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was in the SEC, and the SEC is the closest proving grounds to the NFL that you can find, then you take him in the first round if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with all of the facets of the game that he showed promise in at the college level. The one of these names that almost makes sense is Michael Thomas. Now, again, I don't think this makes all that much sense, but if these three names were the three names to be floated out there, Michael Thomas is the one that I would want second most. Michael Thomas, 31 years old, last contract was a 1-year, $10 million contract. Michael Thomas ran a 4.57 40-yard dash coming out of college at 6 foot, basically 6'3", 6'2 3/4", 212 pounds. Now, he no longer runs that 4.57. That 4.57 is a very bad time for a wide receiver, and I dare say he is even slower than that now. Add to that the fact that he had a 35-inch vertical leap, which is not a great number, and you're looking at a player who had promise. You're looking at a player who at one time was on pace to be one of the best to ever do it. But you're also looking at a player who has dramatically fallen off the past few seasons. Does this player make any sense for the Kansas City Chiefs? I don't think he even makes sense for the Kansas City Chiefs at the 1-year, $10 million rate. So there's that. If he were to sign one of these Drew Tranquill-like 1-year, $1 million contracts, okay, maybe. I mean, you get him into the room, and during the presumed absence of Rashee Rice, this would make some sense. The name on this list that really makes sense to me is Calais Campbell. 37 years old. This is not a youngster. 37 years old, his last contract was a 2-year, $12.5 million contract. Now, that is an absolute bargain for a defensive end. That is an absolute bargain for a guy who's going to be able to put up some reps in your defense so long as he does stay healthy. 6'7" 3/4", 290 pounds. If there were ever to be a Steve Spagnuolo type defensive end, guys, this would be it. 35.75-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands, a 5 flat 40, and a 34.5-inch vertical. But if you're getting 34.5 inches on your vertical plus standing 6'8" you're going to be able to bat down some passes. In 2019, he had 6.5 sacks, 2020, 4 sacks, 2021, 1.5 sack, a very bad season for Calais Campbell. 2022, a 5.5 sack season. 2023, 6.5 sacks for the Atlanta Falcons. By the way, playing and starting in all 17 games for the Falcons. This is a guy who could come in and play anywhere on this defensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. There are only a few free agents that I would really like to see the Kansas City Chiefs at least have in for a visit. Hunter Renfrow is one of them. Calais Campbell might be really the only other one. Calais Campbell coming to this Kansas City Chiefs team in the absence of Charles Omenihu would add that same type of dimension until he gets back. Now, once Charles Omenihu gets back, then you have a defensive line that has George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Charles Omenihu, and Calais Campbell along it. This is a defensive line that would prove drastic problems for any offensive line that they go up against. You add that into the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs do still have an elite linebacker unit, and the Chiefs become very, very difficult to run the ball against, meaning it becomes very difficult so long as you can A, get to the quarterback, or B, stop the pass via some other route, be that interception, be that forced incompletion, whatever it is. If you are able to, what this means is the opposing offenses cannot sideline Patrick Mahomes. The more 3-and-outs you get, the more opportunities a guy like Patrick Mahomes has to rip your throat out, to rip your heart right out of your chest. And guys, it seems to me that this might be a season where the Kansas City Chiefs are after some sweet, sweet revenge for the things that have been said about them, for the things that were said about them all last season, by the way, on their route to a Super Bowl victory. So these are three names that I am not sure how much interest the Kansas City Chiefs will have in, but if they did, this is the order in which I would like to see them brought into Kansas City. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans, as the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more Chiefs-based content in the future. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.